Hi there, my name is Bobby. I'm the creator of BananaSplit, and in this tutorial we're going to cover the Edit Composition dialog. There are a lot of ways to customize a composition so that it is more than just a button that plays a single sound clip. To modify a composition, select it, and then go to Edit, Edit Selected Composition, or click this button here, or right-click and go to Edit, or simply double-click on the composition. So this is the Edit Composition dialog. As you can probably tell, there's a lot of options here. We'll go over them one by one. This large button on the left is your Play Stop button. It functions exactly the same as clicking on the composition in the main view. You can kind of think of it as a preview button. You'll see that when I click the button, the yellow border indicating that playback is occurring appears around the composition in the main view. This text box here is the name of the composition. By default, when you create a composition, it will give it the same name as the file you chose when you created it. In this case, I used a file named bell01 to create this composition. Once the composition is created, you can change the name to whatever you want. We'll change this composition's name to just Bell. You can see that as I change the name in the Edit Composition dialog, the name also changes in the main view. The slider here adjusts the volume and allows you to mute and unmute the composition. You can see that as I move the slider back and forth in the Edit window, the slider also moves back and forth in the main view. Next, we have the icon and color controls. Simply click on the button to choose an icon and click on the drop-down to choose a new color. An important note is that these particular controls are also available in the right-click menu in the main view. Next, we've got the hotkey control. To set a hotkey for a composition, simply click the button to enable the hotkey functionality, and then choose any letter or number. For this composition, since it's named Bell, we'll choose the letter B. Now, if we go back to the main view and hit the B key, it will trigger the composition exactly the same as if we had clicked on it. You can see in the left corner of the composition, there is now a small letter B displayed to indicate that this composition has the letter B as a hotkey. You are allowed to assign the same hotkey to multiple different compositions if you would like. All that means is that all compositions with that hotkey will trigger at the same time when you press the associated hotkey. Next, we have the fade in and fade out controls. Let's go ahead and change the clip that we're using to better illustrate this functionality. So this clip that we chose, Rain Loop Short, starts and stops pretty abruptly. Let's listen to it quickly. If we enable the fade in and fade out controls, we can put a number in these boxes that indicates the number of seconds to fade in and the number of seconds to fade out. Let's do 1.5 seconds to fade in and 2.5 seconds to fade out. Let's listen to the clip now. So you can see that the composition is fading in and out now. You'll also notice that when a fade is occurring, a small stair step icon will appear in the bottom right corner of the composition. That was put there as a friendly reminder that yes, you did successfully hit the play button, but you may not hear the sound right away because it is fading up from silence. The fade in is triggered at the beginning of playback as soon as you start the composition. The fade out can be triggered in two ways: if you stop the composition manually, or if the sound clip is about to reach the end on its own. Let's see how this works in practice. So the first one I will trigger manually. And now the second time I will allow the clip to naturally end. For this next option here, I'm going to go back to our original bell clip. So by default, clicking a composition starts it, and then clicking it again while it is playing stops it. We'll see that right now. Start, stop. Oh, I need to turn off fade out real quick. Start, stop. Start, stop. If you use the Use Stacked Playback option, this is changed so that when you click the composition in the midst of it playing, instead of stopping the sound, it actually triggers the sound again. If that doesn't make sense, just watch to see the difference now. So that's how stacked playback works. It's really useful if you have some short sound effects that you need to trigger in very quick succession. Kind of related to that is this second option here, Disable Double Click to Edit. If we've got Use Stacked Playback enabled and we try and trigger this composition very quickly, you'll notice that the Edit Composition dialog pops up. As we explained earlier, double-clicking on a composition is one of the ways to access the Edit Composition dialog. If you would like to disable that, simply click this option on. Now you can click as fast as you want and the Edit Composition dialog will not pop up. You can use this option even if you don't have Use Stacked Playback enabled, just if you'd like to disable the double click to edit. Alright, so that covers all the options here in the top section of the Edit Composition dialog. I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll explore the options down here in the lower section. Alright, so we've finished covering all of the controls at the top of the Edit Composition dialog. Let's look lower and examine this area. This part of the composition is called a track. When you first create a composition, it will have one track with one sound clip. To add a new track, click the green plus button at the bottom here and select a clip that you would like to add. You'll see that we have another section added here to the bottom, which represents this new track. If we play the composition now, you'll hear that it plays both sound clips at the same time. If you click the small play button in each track, you can listen to that track independently. It's very important to note that if you use the track play button, you are not going to inherit any of the settings in the upper area of the Edit Composition dialog. Those are only honored if you press the main composition play button here. As an example, let's lower the volume here significantly and then hit the main composition play button. Now let's hit the individual track play buttons. As you can probably tell, the track play button is significantly louder because it is only taking into account the adjustments that we make at the track level. It is ignoring the volume adjustment that we made as a whole on the composition level. Each track has a volume slider and mute button that will adjust the volume of the track as a whole. Each sound clip also has a volume slider and a mute button. This may seem kind of unnecessary, but as we'll see later, some track types actually use more than one sound clip, so being able to control their volume both independently and as a group is important. This button right here enables looping for a track. So if I enable this button and then hit the play button, you'll see that the sound will continue indefinitely until I hit stop. Down here is the sound clip that we're using for this track. As I already mentioned, you can click the folder icon here to choose a different sound clip if you would like to use a different one. This button here is a predelay. It is essentially a length of silence added to the beginning of the clip. So if we activate predelay and we put a 2 here in the dialog box, now when we hit play, there should be 2 seconds of silence before the clip actually begins to play. I had the loop enabled. So as you can see, when the loop is going, there will be 2 seconds of silence added before each play of the loop. If I disable the loop and hit play again, there will be 2 seconds of silence added for that individual play. So far we've been using one type of track called the single track. A single track can only use one sound clip and basically just plays it. But the other 2 track types have more options. Let's go ahead and delete this lower track first. And now let's see what options we have for other tracks. The first one is called a sequence track. The sequence track allows you to pick multiple sound clips and then have them play one by one in order from top to bottom. In order for that to work though, we're going to need more sound clips. To add more sound clips to this track, you can hit the white plus button here and choose an additional sound clip. Or you can drag and drop sound files from your computer directly into the track. Let's do slap. We'll turn off this pre-delay real quick. And now let's see what the sequence does. All right, so as you saw, the 3 clips each played one at a time in order from top to bottom. If we turn on the loop option for a sequence track, we actually get an additional option that we did not see in the single track type. So by default, if we leave this unchecked and you have loop on, when you play the sequence, it will loop as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's see that in action now. All right, so if we enable this, now it will loop 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, etc. Let's see how that works. All right, so that's the sequence track type. The next track type that we have is the random track type. This one also uses multiple sound clips. And the way that it works is when you hit the play button, one of the clips in the track will randomly be chosen to play. So let's go ahead and turn off loop for right now. If we hit the play button a couple of times, we should get different clips triggered on almost every play. All right, so as you saw there, when we clicked the button, we were able to have different sound clips play at kind of a random chance. If we enable looping for a random type track, then each time the track loops, it will choose a different sound clip. So let's go ahead and hear that right now. All right, so if you have loop turned on for a random track, you can actually change the amount of time between each loop playing. You can specify a minimum value and a maximum value. So let's go ahead and set a minimum value of 1 and a maximum value of 3. So now, if we hit play, that means that in between each sound clip playing, there will be anywhere from 1 to 3 seconds of silence. All right, so there you go. Finally, if you want certain clips to have a higher or lower chance of being chosen randomly, you can adjust the number next to the clip right here. you can see how increasing or decreasing the number affects the clip's chance of being selected by hovering over the blue question mark icon right here. Right now, each clip has a 1 out of 3 chance of being chosen. If we increase the number in one of these clips, you'll see that it affects the chances of all clips. This clip now has a 2 out of 4 chance of being chosen, and these clips down here have a 1 out of 4 chance of being chosen. So this way you can have certain clips play more often than others and really make it very random. All right, so we've covered most of the options in the track part of the edit composition dialog here. So I'm going to take a break real quick, and when we come back, I'm going to show you how all of these different things that we've learned about can work together to really make a very dynamic and neat type of composition. So we've finally covered all of the different options available in the edit composition dialog. Now let's see a real-world example of where some of these options might be useful. Let's say that we want to create an ambient thunderstorm composition. We'll start by choosing our bass sound clip. We'll do rain loop, short. Bring it in there. We'll listen to it real quick. It sounds a little bit loud, so let's go in here and we'll adjust the volume a little bit. Sounds a little bit better. We'll go ahead and give it an icon. Give it a nice thunder icon right there. And maybe a different color here. We'll do blue. We'll do a fade in and a fade out as well, just so it doesn't start quite so abruptly. Let's listen to it right now. That sounds pretty good. We're probably going to want this to loop because we want it to be ambient, so we'll turn looping on. We don't need to use stacked playback or disable double click to edit. But right now, what we've got sounds pretty good for rain, but it doesn't really feel like a violent thunderstorm. So let's add some more stuff. We'll go ahead and add a new track here that has wind in it. Let's listen to the wind real quick. Okay, that might be a little bit louder than we want it to be, so let's adjust the volume here. Okay, I think that's good. And let's adjust the composition volume back up to full and readjust the track volume only for the rain. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. Let's listen to the track volume for the wind. Okay, that sounds pretty good. And now let's listen to them together. Okay, I think I'm going to make the wind just a little bit quieter. That's good. Now let's go ahead and add some thunder in. We'll go ahead and add another track. Select one of our thunder clips. And let's make this one a random clip. Oh, and let's not forget to turn our wind loop on. All right, so we've got one thunder clip right here. Let's go ahead and grab another one. I think I may want Thunder 2 to play more often. It's kind of a louder sound effect, which I'm going to adjust just a little bit right here. Let's listen real quick. All right, I think that sounds pretty good. So now let's go ahead and put this one on loop, and we'll have this one play anywhere from maybe 2 seconds, anywhere up to 4 seconds in between each loop. Let's see how this sounds. All right, so there we go. We've got a nice little thunderstorm going that's a little bit more dynamic than what we had before. So that's a great example of how you can use all of the different options that you have here in the edit composition dialog to make something a little bit more immersive, a little bit less repetitive, and a little bit more unique. So that basically wraps up our tutorial on using the edit composition dialog. If you'd like to learn more about other features of BananaSplit, please check out some of my other videos, especially the one on keyword templates, which can save you a lot of time when you're trying to set up multiple compositions at the same time. For more information on BananaSplit, please check the description below this video. Thanks very much.